Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another show, my dear brothers and sisters. I have to tell you, I am really, really happy about today because I get a chance to talk to a man. I've known him and have not known him, but I'm going to get to know him today, as I hope you do as well. Brother Wali Bahar. And Captain, can I still call you Captain?
That's what the message comes. Now, I'm not the captain of the FOI.
Yeah.
I'm not the captain
You
of
was
the
his
mob.
captain.
I'm his captain.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you. Brothers and sisters, I am so happy. I have to get, sorry, but this is live TV, so what can I do? Brothers and sisters, I've been blessed here, really, to be able to talk to some of the brothers and sisters who have has had an impact on my life as it relates to the Nation of Islam. And Brother Captain Wali Bahar. I want to say, who do we know?
Not Muhammad.
Yeah, but we knew someone who was Wali Muhammad. But anyway, I'm happy to have you.
Thank you.
Now, let me say, as they would say, you have a history in itself that's unique. I was telling you about the experience that I had with you, and during an FOI meeting, and I was so impressed because I think the brother Edward out of Texas, he was really what I call giving us a tough time that day. But you showed, your ability and what you had learned, never boastful of it, but it was just so unique and to touch me that I still remembered, and that had to be 45 years ago.
At least.
So let me just ask you, as I look at you now, you look relatively young. You'll tell the people how old you are and a few if you want to, but I can tell you don't look it. And this is what we were really supposed to be used to. I mean, should be the exception, this the rule for those who follow the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, because you have maintained quite well, so you had enough in the tank to endure even with his departure. But I have to ask you, I saw you in 1975, Savior's Day. You were on the podium, and absent was your teacher, your messenger, and my messenger.
I call him my maker.
Your maker.
Yeah, he's a lot to most of people, but to me, he's my maker because there is no birth for Wali Bahar.
But you were so calm, and people be wondering what you're thinking. I know I was devastated that day. I was just like, to me, I was numb. I was there, and I wasn't there. It was like the end of the world, but I kept hoping that I would see him. But you up there, you got to carry out orders and be, that firm guy. You don't show any emotions that we may end up falling apart. What was that like for you? Will you tell me?
It was the darkest moment of my life. The triple darkness I had was in '74 when I was blessed to go to Mexico because my wife had been called there and I accompanied her. Was my triple darkness. In '75, it's as if I saw the reality of that darkness. And it was a time when there was no light for me. There was no life for me. About 5 o'clock in the morning, Imam Wali Muhammad called me on the phone and asked me to accompany him to the hospital. And I did. And on our way there, he waited until I was in the parking lot before he prepared me for what to expect. And when I arrived up there, in the room, there was a sheet over the area, and he went in and he came out and he asked me to go in. And was I able to go in?
It's the Imam asking you.
Yeah, he asked me, did I want to go in? I said yes. When I went in and I saw him, His eyes were open, his mouth was open. I tried to close his eyes. I was able to do that. I was not able to close his mouth. And as I looked down on him, and I don't like to talk about this particular moment.
Understand. Let me say this to you. Because if you don't want to talk about
No, I want to say this.
Yeah.
I said to myself,
Yeah.
this person that I serve is dead. But the life in this person is the only life I have.
Okay. Now,
Up to this day.
I can't imagine what that was like, but I'll give you something that was very painful to me. I saw someone like that, Minister Woodrow, who, as you know, was an early kind of historian in the
Right.
Nation of Islam. And they were having his going away or homecoming, and his mouth was open during that time, and he was wrapped in the sheet. But I was so pained by him because as he got sick in the later days, I had become a very close friend of his. He turned over information to us, but then the latter days, the other people took him thinking he had more to give. We went to nursing homes to see him, and I'm saying that to say, I came there thinking one thing and left thinking another. But the message of Allah, I can't even conceive what you did and what you had to go through, but I could imagine that that's what made you strong enough to endure and stand and reconciling that in your own mind. But that was the only life you had.
Right.
And that was a shell, because we know you don't
Exactly.
speak of a man like that in the way of death. And that's something, Brother Wali, that I don't think people understand with us. Being in the Nation of Islam, I never even conceived of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad going nowhere, because we don't talk about that.
I agree.
We never talked about that. And we always saw him forever. And we saw people say, well, he's sick today, and he's
Up the next minute.
day. Yeah,
Up
like
the
it ain't
next
nothing.
minute.
Now,
Yeah.
you were blessed to see him almost
Yeah.
daily.
Yeah.
You know, and I say it almost daily because I can recall Yusuf Shaw saying, he said, I've met with Honorable Elijah Muhammad daily for 9 years. And I always remember that how blessed one was. But can you understand a person like me being so in awe of him? And he was always talking in the books about there are people saying he's too old. And I was wondering, I said, now who could that be? Who got the nerve to say that? But you were right in the mix of things.
Yeah.
And your job, of course, to protect your messenger as best as you could, even though we know God favored him. What was it like knowing you was his captain and what your job was, and how did you come to get that job?
It's a strange thing that you would ask that question, because I did nothing to earn that you're describing. A matter of fact, I can't think of anything that would warrant me to be deserving to even have this privilege to interview. You know, except the way that he handled me. He put me in positions that made me be among men who did great things. And it seemed like I was doing great things, but I really wasn't. It started in Santa Barbara, California, and it went to where you know me from, Akron, Ohio. And again, my first encounter with him, my brother Silas and I, as you know, came
y'all
in.
was like brothers.
We are brothers.
Yeah.
We came in we were in the grave together, so
Okay.
you know what that
So,
means.
yeah.
We came in the nation together. And making a long story short, he had gotten married, and he had gotten a position in the nation as a captain of the West Coast. And at one time, the messenger had summoned him to come to Phoenix to visit him. And in turn, he carried me along with him.
Okay.
And the messenger admonished him by asking him, "Who is this brother you bring? Where he come from?" You know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I felt like crawling under the table. Hey, the holy apostle, I can leave. You know. He said,
Yeah.
"No, sit down." So going quickly through it, I eventually ended up from there to being the minister in Santa Barbara, California.
So you went right into the ministry.
I sent him a letter
Okay.
and told him I wanted to be a minister. He sent me a letter back. He said, "Go to don't tell me you want to be something. Go catch me a fish and then come back and I'll tell you what fish to catch." And I said, "Is there any particular place that you would like for me to go?" And it was suggested that I pick a place, and Santa Barbara was the place.
Yeah.
In Santa Barbara, I ended up with one family, Joseph Stevens, Billy Stevens, his wife, and his mother was a nurse, his daddy was a baker. And we started a thing called Black Muslim Bakery. And then I eventually left there, came to Chicago, and Joseph left there and became Joseph Bey and started the Black Muslim Bakery in Oakland.
So you got all that history.
That's my first convert.
No, but you know, it's really amazing because now Santa Barbara, you had to be pretty tough to even think about.
I didn't think about it.
Because Santa Barbara is for the elite kind of, right?
That was where he sent me. That was my first venture, Santa Barbara, California. And I thought about what you're saying. When I got there, I could count the people on one hand that were black.
Yeah.
And Joseph and Billy and his mother were beauticians, the professional people.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate to get their attention. And then his father, who was not a Muslim, came to Santa Barbara, and there's a whole history about that. And eventually they ended up with a whole group of things in Santa Barbara. I mean, in Oakland.
Now, you know, a lot of things are making sense because you, to me, you had a lot of confidence. Even though I knew you as a captain, but they say it was always known that you were not like the traditional captain.
I've been told that.
Yeah, no, you were not like that, but it was some special. I mean, even like John Hassan, who had a special role, but yours were, we could see the military, but I couldn't see the really catering kind of thing, cater call and all that kind of stuff. Some things you just didn't do. But now, when I think of Brother Bey and Silas, you had a lot of history with these guys, and so I mean, but you had to be firmly rooted because they would come along with some tests for you. And how do you maintain that kind of relationship, knowing the different turmoils that they were going?
My relationship with everyone I ever met still remains the same. With Silas, with Joseph Bey before he died in prison, with Farrakhan up to this day, with you. My relationship has not changed simply because my experience has always simply been sincere.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's good or bad. I don't think the messenger actually looked at me as a believer. He knew that I loved him, I trusted him, and I'd give my life for him. And he knew that the respect I had for the belief he had was what everyone should live. And I don't see myself worthy to have attained anything particular. But
so you're talking about from a spiritual faith?
Spiritually speaking, I'm not really a spiritual man.
Yeah.
My ministry...
You one of those practical things, I guess, huh?
Well, he busted me from minister to make me captain. He told me I wasn't worthy to teach because I was teaching he was God.
Is that right?
Yeah, he called me in and he said, "Brother, Minister Theodore charged me with Hamza Theodore out of Cleveland charged me with teaching he's God." So he called me in, "Brother, you can't be Allah's God. It came in a person's mouth. You can't be talking of God." And later on, he called me in and told me he didn't want me to call myself minister, call myself captain. And then I went back as the captain, still the minister in Akron. And then later on, he called me to Chicago, and that's when I found out. I called him his personal captain because I'm not the captain of any FOI.
Right.
Elijah Muhammad Jr. is the captain of all FOI. Right. And Raymond Sharif was supreme captain of the nation.
Right.
So it left me with The captain only, by his instructions,
Right.
that I have a duty.
So but your duty was to him.
Only.
It's only.
Only.
Just,
I know there was no one between he and I on the instruction.
Did he introduce you to his niece, Gail? Oh,
No.
he didn't.
No.
Now the reason I asked because, so that wasn't it that he loved you because he loved his niece.
All my history was before I met his niece.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So did you ever ask him?
How? Yeah, I did.
What is it? This relationship with?
She has her own history, and when I found out about her, you're talking about my wife.
Well, yeah, of course, and she's always been very, very nice to us, and always that pleasant smile, and she loved the messenger.
Hey, no doubt.
That's all I knew, and anybody that loved the messenger, then that was good enough.
I would venture to say he was one of the most trusted ones that he trusted. But anyway, she was in New Jersey, and she had one son and was pregnant with another son. I did not know this. She didn't know her uncle was a messenger of Allah. She run up on her brother in the street selling papers and saw the messenger's picture and said, "That's my uncle." She had been conversing with him but didn't know the status of it.
Yeah, didn't know who this really
Right,
was.
so the minister, I believe it was Minister Thunder.
James Shamar.
Thunder, yeah, out of New Jersey. I believe that was him. But anyway, he brought it back to the messenger. The messenger sent for her, and that's how she got there. And my first meeting with her, at the first of the month, we come to the monthly report, and me and Hamza and Jeremiah and Theodore Hamza, Jeremiah, and I, we were sitting on the couch waiting for our turn to go in the dining room, and she came down the stairs as a secretary, and I told Theodore, Minister Hamza, I said, that's my wife. He said, brother, you're crazy. That's the messenger's niece. I said, I don't care, that's my wife. I always tell her this story over and over again. But and I could go into a whole lot more. But I just want to scant just of it. She can tell her own story.
You gave me enough, and I'm sure that after this interview, maybe my sister would give me an interview.
I doubt it.
Yeah, I hope she would.
This is my first. I had one interview in the 60 years I've been involved with this. I had one interview, and that was with Solace's group when he decided to make me Supreme Captain. My wife told him, "Do you know what you're doing? Because I'm not going to ever be anything for someone. You know, I'm what I am. I really don't consider myself nothing except a messenger's captain. That's it. You know."
But you helped. It did remarkable things, even in the rebuilding with the minister. You got in where you fit in. I mean, you participated, I know, to a large degree. So let me, because I want to go back to this. Did you ask the messenger, though, so what is it with me? What is our relationship? How do you define it? Because
when he told me my name was Wali Bahar, I asked him, what does Wali mean? He said to me, it means a friend. My reply to him was, dear Holy Apostle, Allah is your friend. He said, it means more than a friend. It means a protecting friend. I said to him, Allah is your greatest protector. He turned around, he looked at me, and he said to me, when you come to me, other than what I say you are, you won't have a friend to keep me from killing you. So at that moment, it kind of threw me off, but I understand today very thoroughly.
Well, you want to share it, or you want to?
I'm his bond.
Is it okay?
I'm his bond.
Okay.
Simply because I was not born Wali Bahar. I did not decide to be Wali Bahar. I'm Wali Bahar simply because that's what he said I am.
Okay.
And 3 generations later, I got a son that was born Wali Bahar. And he has a son that was born Wali Bahar.
So that name
Wali Bahar is death and life.
He continues to go, okay.
So that's why I say all I am is what he made me to be.
Brothers and sisters, we're talking to Brother Wali Bahar, which, and we're going to talk to as long as he can handle it, because I'm here to ask you.
I'm here for you.
Well, let me say, and I appreciate you being here for me, because it still, as I say, have to be difficult when you get that close to a person Your role is not defined to many of the believers, but who cares? You got the eye of the messenger of God, and this is a part of the Nation of Islam that, quite frankly, I'm sorry about. But everybody wanted the affection of the messenger, and that's natural for us to want the affection of the leader. Everybody want to be close, and I'm sure that there were people who wanted to know, well, what is Wali doing here, and I'm not here. And
that was a very valid question
yeah,
for the laborers of the Nation of
that's what
Islam,
I'm saying.
the top laborers.
And I know of Valor Najee, and I got to know her, and I know she want to know everything.
Yeah.
What is this? But a man that big, he had to have confidant, people that you could bounce certain things off and talk to and get things implemented, because he knew all of his stars.
Everyone.
Yeah. And so and then people don't understand that I've lived long enough to know that's how it goes. But when you look at yourself, and obviously it's some special that he taught you to extend in your grandson and keep that name Wali Bahar, to impress upon your son, that he would impress it upon his son and see the value of it. And I give you an example. I know when I thought about my name Munir, the way that I got it, even though I was not pleased with it when the Imam gave it to me. But once I knew of the name and began to accept it, as I had grandchildren, as my son gave his first son my name. I was in D.C., and I thought how thoughtfully, because I had never discussed it with him, and I didn't name him after me coming up. In fact, I even permitted his mother to name him, and I didn't like his name anyway, but he was the reason we got this name. Make a long story short, when I learned the value of Munir, and then I wanted that to be the surname, my grandchildren, they have, if his name is Kamal Ali Munir Muhammad, to let my name live forever, being the first, born into, the first in the Nation of Islam. And people didn't see that. So I could see the value of Wali Bahar, because you're the patriarch of the family, but the messenger made you who you are. And
I want to commend you on what you have done. I look around before you had the studio, when you had makeshift studio,
Yes.
And I can remember during the Imam's time where I started recognizing your value, and then had the privilege to accompany you on 87th Street to see deteriorated buildings and pictures that people have thrown away values,
We did talk about that, didn't we?
Yeah, and today I was telling Munir, who I have an experience with, a very lot of experience with, that in looking around here, I see the baby. Baby to me is the infancy, and it's pure, it's sincere, and it's undiluted.
Right.
That's how I see this program,
Right.
Crow.
Right.
And I dare not get off of this program without recognizing you for that.
Yes.
And
yes.
I wanted to squeeze that in, and that's about it.
I appreciate that, because see, when I go back and think about that, everybody that I thought was of value, and they may not have thought of themselves as value. I can recall talking to you about and I felt, because I tried to set up an interview, if you recall, early on, but you remember the young sister that I don't know if she came to you or not. She was one of, when we first started, because she did Lou Palmer. I think she did do you.
No, I only did one interview.
But she didn't. She talked to you. Maybe not.
I didn't give it. I've had.
No, you didn't. But she was. What was her name, Shay? Well, I remember the young girl. Shannon.
Yeah.
Shannon. Yeah. She called you now.
Yeah.
Because she was doing
I
report. I allowed her, because we weren't really doing any interviews ourselves that tough. But I thought of you as the ideal person to talk to. So, and what you're telling me now, you are an ideal person because you merge a kind of history that people would ordinarily know. Now, Silas had gotten in trouble about Louisiana, but was he married to Harriet at that time? How did all that come about?
Yes. I don't want to get into the details of the Louisiana situation.
Yeah, okay.
A lot of it that he was accused of, you know.
You didn't think it was factual?
I didn't think it was fair.
Okay.
I do know that history, and I do know Monroe, and I know the minister that was there then, the minister that's following Farrakhan now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, let me just ask you this then. Because as you know, Bay, I see now that all of you all, and it could have been misconstrued because the three of you were pretty close.
Yeah.
Y'all grew up together.
Right.
And your first convert,
Oh, talking about Joseph?
Joseph.
Yeah.
All right, now, but in 1979, see, now I got to fast forward because you were there with the imam, but were you really there with him?
I inherited the imam.
Yeah.
He didn't choose me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, but he kept you, though.
He had no choice. I mean, Messer didn't die and leave everything in order.
Yeah.
When he passed, everything had to be dealt with as it was. And I was, whoever the leader was, that act like they took his place or took his place, they couldn't get rid of me.
Right.
Not because of any value I had, but because of the position the messenger had me in at that time.
Right.
And I was privileged to, I accepted Wallace, Imam Wallace Dean Muhammad, and I didn't have a problem with him, for I had heard his father speak of the heritage of him. Only when he started going against his father did I question the mode without any action. But when we went to Hajj is where he and I had a conversation about the kissing of the stone. And on Arafat, we had a conversation. He asked me what was Allah, and I told him Allah means the wisdom and knowledge of all understanding.
Right.
And after 78, we began to kind of drift apart. I've always had a love for him and still have a love for him. In my not agreeing with him, there was no disagreement.
But so you chose Mecca to raise that issue up because he brought up the black stone. He knew of the messenger's teaching during theology of time.
When he brought up the black stone with me, I told him that the reason I didn't kiss the black stone is because the black stone represented his father, and there was no other further question. And during that time, I was uncomfortable with King Faisal that we had lunch with, who took his entourage and broke through the crowd to kiss the stone.
Yeah.
So he and I had some differences that we solved.
Because there was no equality.
No, to me it wasn't.
You know, Brother Wali, I appreciate you speaking candidly about that, because what I didn't like, when they started to come in from Kuwait and other places, and the way they wanted to solicit our people to come to go to school, and taking advantage of some of our people, in my thinking. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of firmly rooted, and this is what I'm hearing you say. I think I was firmly rooted and believed so strong in the messenger to nothing else mattered. I had a blind faith, even though...
I'm still there.
Yeah, well, even though in Galatians it says, I travail a second time until Christ be formed in you. He had to be born in me. I mean, I'm with him. Right. But he said, I looked at it, I kissed it, I didn't like to kiss it. You know, vanity has its place, but he knew that was him.
I have seen the messenger do prostration. I've seen him do it. Wallace has struggled with me, not struggled with me, but his trying to deal with me at that time when he first began to introduce the rituals to the prayer.
Right.
The first encounter was at the 26 in California at the Muhammad Speaks newspaper.
Oh, okay.
And upstairs, and I had been trained and tutored by him the ritual of the prayer, and I was Daniel calls the first imam, but I don't really
Daniel Kareem.
He called me being the first imam because I demonstrated to the brothers who would be imam how it go. But Daniel Kareem was the first adhan that I heard that I have a love for that advan that he gave of the love I have for Farrakhan and his charismatic way of delivery.
Right.
You know.
Okay.
They both are equal in that manner.
Yeah.
And I look at myself as the other brother of every so-called Negro born or made in the wilderness of North America.
You know, you have a unique perspective. Brothers and sisters, we're talking to Brother Wali Bahar, and I have to tell you, I'm enjoying this because it's going by too fast for me. You know, and I got it, and I have just got to the first minute or two in my mind. But let me go, because we going a little farther. People may not understand this, but I can see now when you talk about your experience.
Right.
And you have a hell of a experience, because I'm still trying to go back to that day on the podium when you were there and knowing that the messenger of God was not standing there, and so many times you've seen him standing there. So many times you wanted to help hold him up, make sure that if he didn't fall or something, always eye on him, and he's not there. Now you got to lift another man up that you know.
I didn't.
Now you may not, but I'm talking.
I was there
you
when
there.
he was lifted
when he
up.
was lifted up. Now, I mean, we in '75. We remember that at the end, I think Herbert led the charge for his brother during that time. I don't know. No, it might have been Elijah Jr. But the Imam taught in a way that day made me to realize that he could teach. He understood some things, but to me, it was loosening up the people to get away from his father. It was just this guy, I'm the new guy on the block, and I can take you further. But to me, there was nobody, and still to this day, can take you further than
I agree.
Elijah took.
I agree.
And then I think it was foolish for somebody to even assume that could be. And I don't care who it is, because that man never spoke an idle word. And you know, I used to think you hear Malcolm and all of them talking, but I learned if you listen to enough tapes of the messenger, they never spoke anything independent of him. They just didn't know it. He said it, they took it and put it in another word or something, but that man...
That's what makes Crow such an emphasis in the branches that are now from Farrakhan to Silas, the Son of Man, to all of them. I have some experience with all of them.
Right.
And I can understand most of them, the direction they're taking, whether I
Right.
agree or not
Right.
agree. But when I come here, it's not an opinion, it's just pictures. And when you look at them, you have an experience with it or you don't.
All praises due to Allah. That's a wonderful analogy, but this is true. And you know what? You've had this uniqueness of that. And you know, when you first told me that about opinions and experience and things, it kind of gels now.
Right.
And especially, as I say, this uniqueness that you have, because I was going to call you back to the point when Bey invited Minister Farrakhan. Now, were you in Oakland at the time? Were you there?
No.
You went there?
Both of them, Yosef Bey and Silas, both of them had been, and when Silas first stood
Right.
and came to Chicago to declare war on Wallace,
Right.
he came to me.
Right.
And I didn't know at that time, Joseph had just recently visited me, and he was already kind of headed in his direction, you know. And I had no idea that he was setting up something.
Yeah.
Not Silas, not Farrakhan,
Right.
but he was setting up something.
Yeah.
Silas had given the letter to another friend of ours named, it was Kushmir then, I think, Benoit.
Jabril.
And Benoit passed it on to Farrakhan, and, you know.
Because Jabril was close to you all, as
I
well.
picked him up from Los Angeles when he got out of prison.
And he had this unique way, because
Before he married.
yeah, but there was a lot of correspondence with him and Silas too, on the spiritual.
Silas paid his way to even go where he was going.
Is that right?
Yeah, but they had their history.
Right.
I speak, as I told you before, I speak from my experience and my experience
But you know
alone.
what's beautiful about that, though? The word has many connections.
Yeah,
and the Holy Ghost talks about that. And you connected for me because I know of these guys. Now, I had some good conversations with Silas, and I think what got in the way of me and Silas is other people. That's why we couldn't. But I know that we enjoy talking to each other. But I know there's a lot of things that happened over the years. I was supposed to meet him in the airport. Somebody obstructed that because I didn't know anything about the crown room of Delta, and that. But so I'm even on the speaker trying to find this guy.
Yeah. We're gonna resolve that.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, I enjoyed talking to him. See, here's the point. When other people get in the way who didn't have the history and they had their motives, and, just like Farrakhan told Brother Bay, he said, I didn't know we were coming here to show our wares. Now, Farrakhan, they may have thought they caught him off guard, but he was so smooth and articulate, and he was not abrasive, but he just got that gift.
Right.
And so it was a wonderful thing. But anyway,
Joseph was the one who set that up.
Yeah, I know. He set it up.
Farrakhan didn't set it up, nor did Silas.
No, but Joseph said it, but he set him up. I don't know if it was to fail or he was the blind side of it.
Well, yeah, I know Joseph. That's my first convert.
Yeah, that's okay. So you know who you was dealing with. Brothers and sisters, this is the history. And that's what I say to people. The Nation of Islam is so big, brothers and sisters. And that's why when you think of that little man from Georgia, man, he established a nation in his time, and he could see it while he was here. See, this the point. A lot of people, thousands of years before they may come into their own, because people don't realize, even with Prophet Muhammad and the argument among the Quraysh people, they didn't accept the Prophet, but people think that they just accepted him wholeheartedly, but that was an argument.
Well, that's another thing that was a conversation with Imam and I. Prophet Muhammad was a white man.
Yeah.
And
you told him.
He knew that.
Yeah.
He knew. I mean, I didn't tell him anything he didn't know. But I'm stuck on it. I'm made up out of what I am.
Right.
So whatever the man, I'm not the teachings, but whatever the man teach, I'm affected by it. I'm the effects of that teaching. So there's no way that I can totally give myself to a white man. I look at it like I look at a snake. All of them are not poison.
Yeah, I got you. And you don't feel bad in saying that.
It's the truth.
And that's what I would say.
It's the truth.
I said the same
I didn't make it up.
And I can agree with you, and I'm happy that you can see the reality of those things, and it bothers me that others that have been up close couldn't see it. It's almost an embarrassment to me sometimes when I hear them go after the messengers, so-called orthodoxy, and growing up, that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was still stuck, and that kind of thing. Here's a man the whole world bowed to.
We didn't advance as a progression of Islam. We advanced out of Islam into the reality of Islam.
Let me ask you, Theology Time series.
I was there from 1971 to 1974.
Okay. But now here you were when he coming out and he say, I'm going to charge you all laborers with this. The microphone, he had been talking for a few minutes and you couldn't hear him. He said, now what do they know that I said? So he was angry about this, but never have I heard a man teach like that with no notes, just talking pure theology and in a way that you don't hear anybody come like that? Do you think that people understood
that series was an introduction to a study called time.
Yeah.
And it was based on the theory of it, to bring the reality of God.
Right.
And he broke it down very clearly, and a lot of people took what he broke down to be literally for the sun or the moon or whatever he used as an example, even religion that he used as an example, even Prophet Muhammad that he used as an example. It should have given us some inclination that he's not a sign of an example. He is a fulfillment,
yeah,
not the sign.
But yeah, I agree.
He was not a sign, you know. So the theology of time
He
was
came
a
in.
series.
That's sad.
Was a series of lectures before he passed.
Right.
He wanted to give the world something to study, even if he was not present.
And I'm saying, even how did we get away from studying that? You know, I'll say this. The June 4th, that first tape, the first 22 minutes, I always took pride in that. I say, if you give the Honorable Elijah Muhammad 22 minutes, he'll give you the world. Mm-hmm. He was so good at that. And when he said, if you believe that I am he, then you're a lucky man or you're a lucky woman. And he said, if you come, let me teach you how this all began and how it all
ended. Around your little finger.
Yeah. but just think about this language that he using. Yeah. And to this day, you know, it surprised me how we can quote anybody else when it comes to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He speaks for himself. That's how good he is.
He is a defender of himself.
Yes, he is.
And I am a protector for you.
Yeah.
If you can defend yourself.
Is that so?
If you can't defend yourself, Wali, there's no Wali for you.
Teach.
But if you can defend yourself, I can protect that as you are defending the messenger's name, the messenger's legacy. I can protect that.
Brother Wali, not that I need to do this, but I think I'm going to take one quick break, and I'll come back. You know, when I think about that man, you have to take a break and just reflect
it's your program.
For a moment. Brothers and sisters, we're talking to Brother Wali Bahar, and we hope to continue our conversation. Who knows, it may be a series. We may never end this conversation. So I'm going to take a break, and then we'll come back and begin to wind down in this session, I should say, because there's a lot more to talk about. We'll be right back.
The man that is talking to you next time, don't have me to open my mouth until you have this thing open in its mouth. See, I have spent many words that a lot of people could not hear. Good. I'm going to charge you all labels with this, because what do they know I said before you opened it up? Now we can hear. The reason that you must know the truth today, it is because the lawyer must be removed. And to keep you from getting confused over the truth and the lie, a plain warner, says the Holy One, would be sent to you, whose words that will be easy for you to understand. He will speak your own language, and he will be chosen from among you. There will be no stranger coming out of the east to you. It will be one of your own self, like God has always done in the past. He raised up a warner or a prophet from among the people whom he will warn, so they will not have no excuse to say that they don't understand that stranger. There was no such plain truth taught to us in the past. We've been shining our eyes looking for somebody to scale the eastern horizon, and we'll look up and see them coming. But the Holy One condemns such, because if that man come from the east, he may speak a strange language, and you won't be able to understand it. Then the Holy One say, you will say, oh, a narrow and a rabid Holy One. Can't understand either one.
On the lake, we are back, and brothers and sisters, it's always refreshing to listen to the messenger. But Brother Wali, in our first interview here, and like I said, no, it won't be the last, because if it were not for a shame, we could have done part 2 today. But I'm hoping after we assess this that you may. Well, I know we're going to do a part 2, there's no doubt about that, but I'm saying, who knows? Even the novice, I could learn much about this history, because it's such a fascinating history. And they don't even realize, they all inquire about it. All the people that they talk about emanated from the nation. Yeah. Like Muhammad Ali said, they were either in the nation, they heard somebody from the nation talking, but they didn't come up with anything on their own. Now, suffice to say, you put 60 years into this. And a lot of people say, you're still in the nation. It's a way of life.
Thank you.
Yeah. And everybody don't get that. And you got the same wife that you've had, which is wonderful in itself, because, as I say, her disarming smile, and she always showed love for the message of God. And everybody can't say that. A lot of people start and stop, and I can't imagine separating myself from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. It just don't make sense. You got to do this if you're alive, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's inevitable.
Yeah. So your best friends, when you say you grew up with Silas.
Yeah.
But your first convert.
Oh, you're talking about Joseph.
Yeah. But what was your experience like with the laborers here in Chicago and coming up? Because you worked with Hamza. That's what were you considered Hamza's captain too? I mean,
I wasn't nobody's captain.
you were nobody's captain but the messenger.
That's right. I was not the captain of the FOI. I was
But
not
you-
the captain of any mosque, and I was nobody's captain.
But when you would come here, you would come. I remember that, I don't even want to talk about what you were driving or nothing, unless you want to talk about it. But
I don't mind you talking
Yeah,
about it.
but
I
I'm-
came in just like you came in. What was you driving when you came in?
I had a Fleetwood or something.
I came in with a Jaguar.
But I thought I saw it a Rolls Royce.
That's what I advanced to.
Yeah,
You didn't have no studio.
yeah.
All you had was a Fleetwood.
That's a good point.
I hear you with the studio.
That's a good point. Well, let me just put it to you like this. But you're not, because that region.
Hamza and I
'Cause
were always not arguing or fighting, but on different pages of interpretation.
okay.
Even when the messenger was living.
Well, when you talk about him, I mean, when you say that the messenger stopped you from teaching them being God, Hamza got, he was talking like the messenger had elevated to God. Do you think he got
his wife would probably have to explain that. I kind of think he migrated into my concept, but maybe that's
okay.
that's my opinion.
So he
right?
finally came. but let me ask you this. Speaking of his wife, have you seen her?
I saw her once. I organized a group of brothers to meet Silas.
Okay.
Jeremiah, Minister John, Messenger's brother out of Detroit, Theodore Hamza out of Cleveland, John Muhammad here, and John Ali. And I held the first meeting here. And the purpose of the meeting is for them to meet Silas, because all of them had their opinion about it. I just
Right.
wanted to meet him,
Right.
And that's the last time I saw Hamza's wife, because he was kind of ill at that time.
Yeah, he came right here, and
Yeah.
he was dying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
he
he
was-
went back to Cleveland 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
He was dead.
Yeah, Hamza is the oldest one. I may have been others, but Hamza was the oldest major minister that I know stuck to his post through the duration of Wallace,
Yeah, he
before
did.
and during that time.
We had some nice times in Cleveland with him. He would try to keep the restaurant open
Yeah.
out of his own pocket. And
Yeah.
I think he got hurt. One of those young brothers kind of disappointed him. He thought he was coming to be a helper when he was really coming under cover to be a thief, and hijacked his mosque and take over as a young fellow, and he had to end up leaving in the middle of the night. And they know him now as Secretariat. But he was the one who did that to Hamza. Hamza made a tape about him, and I think it broke his heart.
Yeah,
And
probably,
I know it broke his heart because we know of him during that time. And as I say, we got a picture where he came here in a wheelchair on the plane, but he came and he wanted to stand up at the podium
Yeah.
to declare his, I think, resignation from the true followers. He couldn't do that anymore, true followers of John Elijah Muhammad. So he taped it right here. I was at his funeral in Cleveland, and
I didn't get a chance to go to the funeral.
yeah, I did go, and Minister Farrakhan sent a letter. I think he was going to be on the East Coast. He already had an engagement, but it bothered me because so many of the talented ones, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was that cemented everybody together, but it was loosened up.
My first assignment as captain, and the only major assignment as captain under the messenger, was to go investigate the death of the minister in Newark.
Is that right?
I was the one that he sent to go investigate that death. And I did. And that's when I ran into the 5%ers in class.
Okay. Because his son took his place, the son, right?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
But you just was there.
I was there simply for the investigation of Mr. James' murder.
The messenger loved that man, though.
That's why I was sent.
Yeah. And I can see that. See, that makes sense. because he said the devil got a hold of him and put him back in prison. He came to follow the message in prison.
Yeah.
That's how, yeah.
The thunder.
Well, I know there are many things that you can tell us and talk about on that, and we can't do it all in one sitting. But I tell you, we've opened up some. Now we will have that coffee and talk about some things that probably won't get aired. I can understand that. But let me ask you, give me a highlight. I know you had so many over the 60 years, but what stood out more so than anything? What did the messages say or do that you'll never forget that just meant the world to you, or something you can think of?
Oh, there's a multitude of things. The most humbling one is his manner. His manner.
The way he handled himself?
Yeah, his manner as a man. The other one is his personal life, you know, that I was privileged to observe. Some of the major times in my career of living this life was during the time of Malcolm, during the time of Jeremiah, during the time of Muhammad Ali. And by the way, Muhammad Ali met Belinda on this street here at the bakery down the street.
In that year, 73rd Street.
From 1962, April 27, is what turned my whole world around. April 27, 1962.
When they shot
Tomas, and they killed Ronald T. Stokes, the secretary. They shot Lieutenant Arthur. They paralyzed Lieutenant Williams, and his brother was shot. And
because you were there, right?
I was there. So that experience was one of the most
yeah.
Get up and kill the devil kind of.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You know, we'll talk about that in our next sitting. Brothers and sisters, we want to thank Brother Wali for coming in for this first sitting. We're going to have him again. And that's one thing about it, like you say, we do have a studio, so we don't have to ask nobody else's permission as long as we got his. Thank you so much for watching. And may Allah bless you with the light of understanding as I greet you in peace. Assalamu alaikum.